Some of these you can use deliberately. Some of them you may find opportunities to suddenly pop up in one place or another and just notice that they're there. When you're thinking about one person's ability to influence another, one of the factors that's important is expertise. And you may have noticed that one of the things that Chris did when she was introducing me to you, she pulled out all these facts about me and my background. And by doing that, you may not have consciously labeled it as such, but what she was doing is she was labeling me as having a certain kind of expertise, which probably gave me, or possibly gave me, more credibility in your eyes than would have been the case if this were just some totally unknown figure who gets up and starts talking about stages of change. And that's something you can use. So if there's an area in which you have some expertise and it's appropriate for the situation, use it. So if you happen to be in any kind of financially related business and you know about things having to do with tax laws, having to do with marriage, you can pull that out in a conversation and say, as an accountant, I can tell you that it is worth 30% or whatever it is for somebody to be able to be married. And so anybody who's in a couple relationship and cannot get married is losing that. And so, you know, there are ways that you can use your expertise selectively. Another one that's kind of closely related to that is authority. And your authority may work even if it's in a totally different arena. You know, I've seen cases where there was a top corporate exec in Silicon Valley who was weighing in on the foreign affairs having to do with the Soviet Union and the United States at one point back in the 80s. And I was thinking, this is not this guy's business at all. But because he had the label in people's mind of being an authority of some sort, he could get away with weighing in on a lot of other topics. Now, one of the areas where a lot of us in this room have authority is that we've had personal life experiences. We've seen things, we've lived through things, we know people, and we can talk in a personal kind of way. In my experience, I have seen such and such happen. I mean, I know a couple, a lesbian couple, and they adopted 2 kids, and the kids are growing up fine, and I can tell you that the older daughter is totally heterosexual, and you know, and so know the idea that you were saying about same-sex couples are somehow perverting their children. No, it's not borne out by reality. You may also happen to have some facts that, you know, if you occasionally, and it may be something your organization does, or it may be something that you personally do, you just keep a little facts in a file that you can refer back to in your mind once in a while. And you may have found an article at some point, a little condensed article in some popular place that gave you some figures that are useful for making an argument about something. And so if you're in a conversation with somebody and you want to get back to them and you say, I think I've got an article about that, I'll send it to you. And then you can give them the facts, even if you don't already remember it in your mind. Reciprocation is kind of a nice thing to use. And I think this is the thing, it's a part of what goes on with the, your accountant and your dentist and people like that, because you actually give them something by your patronage, by using them for their dental services or their financial services. I mean, you're financially valuable to them. And they have a feeling of wanting to reciprocate. You know, they're reminded, you come in there and you say, it's great having been your client for the last 5 years. And they say, how you been doing? Well, you have just planted in their mind this little seed that says, and it works for a fairly short period of time, you know, maybe a half hour, hour or something, that there's a time, a little window in there in which if you ask them for something, you're more likely to get it. You don't necessarily set up the opportunities, but if they occur, be sensitive to them, because it may be a good time that you can do that. If you've done favors for somebody, then it's a good time to ask them for some little favor back. There's another thing, another one of these interaction kind of principles that's used, now this one's used particularly for fundraising. So be aware, anybody who gets involved in fundraising for your cause. It's called rejection and then retreat. If you ask somebody for something and they say no, don't take it as a flat no. Ask for something a little less, and they're actually more likely to give it than if you had come in asking for that. So that's why these telemarketers or fundraisers on the phone are always coming in. They ask you if you're willing to donate $200 to something, and you say no, and they say, well, could you give at least 50? And because you've rejected them, then you kind of have this feeling that you want to compensate for that a little bit, and so you're more likely to say yes than if they came right in and they asked you, would you give me $50, in which case the answer would be no. And so watch for that kind of dynamic, and if you get involved in fundraising, remember to ask a bit more. I mean, you may ask somebody, are you willing to go down and march in the Gay Pride Parade with me all day? No. Are you willing to paint a couple signs with me? Or help me get my costume ready? Come on over and we'll have a beer and just paint some signs. Well, yeah, I could do that. And they may never have said yes if you just said, will you come and paint signs with me? Commitment is a really important one. And the commitment is, if somebody has come out and said out of their own mouths they're willing to do something, they're more likely that they haven't said it. If they've written it, that's even better. If they've written it or said it in public where other people can see it, it's even better yet. If they've taken one action, you're more likely to get them to do another action. And this is one of the reasons that you get people to sign up for things. Can you put everybody who agrees that you're going to do, you're going to have a potluck at your house, put your name up here on the wall. Let's see who's going to be having the potlucks. Well, I put my name on there, I can't back out of there. People are counting on you doing it. And that really works, because then you've committed yourself to it, and you're probably going to be more committed to the whole plan that you agreed to in public. Sometimes you can get people to do this with writing on a card a reason that they support a particular thing, and put their name on it, and stick them up on the wall.